A wild goat, feared in local legends, shows up on the darkest night in the mountains. What it does when a young woman goes missing will leave you speechless. The rain relentlessly punished the Montana countryside that night. Lucy Morgan watched the drops stream down the window of her home at Hope Ranch while her wheelchair remained stationary before the vastness of Stone Ridge. At 21, her expression carried an unusual determination for someone so young. "Miss Lucy, I brought your chamomile tea. You need to rest," said Aunt Rose, the housekeeper who had cared for her since childhood, placing the cup on the side table. "Thank you, Aunt Rose, but rest will have to wait. I have an important meeting tomorrow." The housekeeper frowned, concerned. "With Dr. Davis, be careful, child. Since your father left us, that man has changed." Lucy smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Believe me, I know exactly who Alan Davis is." When Aunt Rose left, Lucy turned her wheelchair toward the desk and opened a secret drawer. From it, she removed a folder with documents and a flash drive. 3 months investigating in silence, connecting dots, discovering inconsistencies in the businesses her father had supposedly left. Everything pointed to an unacceptable truth. Alan, the family's business partner and friend, the man who had become her legal guardian, was systematically siphoning off the Morgan assets. "Dad, I promise I won't let your legacy be destroyed," she whispered to the portrait of Anthony Morgan, a man with a stern face but kind eyes. The next morning, the ranch awoke with the sky still heavy. Lucy was ready, dressed simply, but with a posture that commanded respect. Vivian, her secretary and trusted friend since school days, hurried into the office. "Lucy, are you sure about this? Stone Ridge Overlook is no place for a confrontation, especially with this weather. It's the only place where we'll be truly alone, Viv, and I need to see his reaction when I show him what I've discovered." Vivian knelt beside the wheelchair, holding her friend's hands. "And if something goes wrong? You know what he's capable of." Lucy swallowed hard, remembering her father's accident, an inexplicable tractor rollover that had never convinced her. "That's exactly why I want you to keep this." She handed over a sealed envelope. "Only open it if I don't return by tomorrow." Vivian nodded, tucking the envelope into her purse. At noon, Lucy's adapted vehicle climbed the Stone Ridge Trail, driven by John, the family's trusted driver. The meeting place was a natural lookout point from which one could see the entire expanse of the Morgan lands. "Wait in the car, John, this won't take long." While being helped into position at the overlook, Lucy spotted an unusual figure among the bushes, a black goat of proud bearing, observing her with an almost human intensity. Thorn, she thought, recognizing the legendary animal that locals often talked about. Minutes later, Alan's luxury car arrived. Tall, with graying hair and an impeccable suit, his cynical smile contrasted with the gravity of the moment. "My dear Lucy, what an absurd idea to arrange a meeting here in this weather. It needed to be somewhere no one could interrupt us, Alan." The man raised an eyebrow, maintaining his studied smile. "Sounds serious. Has something happened?" Lucy removed the documents from the bag she carried. "Yes, something has happened. I discovered what you've been doing with my father's companies, the fraudulent transfers to offshore accounts, the land sold at ridiculous prices to shell companies. That coincidentally belonged to you." Alan's smile disappeared, giving way to an icy expression. "Impressive, truly impressive. Your father would be proud, but also worried, you know. Some discoveries can be dangerous." Thunder tore through the sky, announcing the approaching storm. Lucy felt a shiver run down her spine as she watched Alan slowly approach her wheelchair. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We continue. "What exactly do you want, Lucy?" asked Alan, his voice calculatedly controlled as the rain began to fall harder. "I want the truth. I want you to tell me why you betrayed my father's trust, why you're destroying everything he built." Alan laughed, a cold sound that mingled with the noise of the storm. "Your father was an idealist, a good man, no doubt, but unable to see the real potential of these lands." "Potential? What's here besides the ranches?" "Minerals, my dear, tons of them. Gold primarily. Your father discovered it and refused all offers, said the land was sacred, that it belonged to the people. Imagine refusing millions because of sentimentality. Lucy clutched the documents to her chest. And you decided to take everything for yourself after he was gone. I merely accelerated an inevitable process. Alan moved closer, leaning over her. You see, your condition has always limited you. Who would believe you could manage all this alone? I'm not alone. I have loyal people by my side, and now I have evidence. Lightning illuminated Alan's face, revealing an expression Lucy had never seen before, pure hatred mixed with sudden terror. What evidence? He hissed. Your falsified contracts, the illegal transfers, payments to environmental inspectors to ignore clandestine surveys. It's all here, and also in a safe place in case something happens to me. Alan stretched out his hand. Give me that. Why? So you can destroy them like you did with my father's original documents? The rain was now falling violently. Lucy felt her chair slide a few inches on the muddy ground, dangerously close to the edge of the cliff. Fear finally began to take hold of her. "John!" she shouted, trying to call the driver, but her voice was swallowed by the storm. He can't hear. You, Lucy, no one can. Alan moved closer, his eyes cold as stone. You know, I really didn't want things to come to this point. You've always been a good girl. Step back, Alan. I'm serious. Like your father was serious? He smiled, a smile devoid of humanity. He threatened me too, you know. Said he would report everything, expose it all. It was a tragic accident that happened. It wasn't an accident at all, Lucy shouted, tears mixing with the rain streaming down her face. You killed him. Such a strong word, Lucy. Let's say that I allowed fate to take its course, as I will do now. With a quick movement, Alan grabbed Lucy's arms, tearing the documents from her hands. Let me go, she screamed, trying to break free. Poor Lucy, so shaken by the loss of her father, so pressured by the business she couldn't manage. Everyone will believe me when I say you gave in to sadness and threw yourself off this cliff. A sudden movement caught both their attention. Among the drenched bushes, two bright spheres stood out in the darkness, the eyes of the black goat, Thorn, watching the scene. The animal advanced a few steps, as if it understood the danger. What is that? Alan was distracted for a moment. Taking advantage of the instant of inattention, Lucy managed to land a blow to Alan's face with all the strength she possessed. He staggered backward, surprised, but quickly recovered, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. You... he growled, advancing again. This time there was no hesitation. With a violent push, he unbalanced Lucy's chair, sending it toward the precipice. She screamed, feeling the emptiness below, the terror of imminent fall. For an instant all time seemed to freeze. She saw her father's face, felt the weight of injustice, anger at her powerlessness. And then the impossible happened. A black blur darted across the lookout, hurling itself with incredible speed in the same direction as the fall. Thorn, the cow, legendary goat of the ridge, jumped after her as if defying the very laws of nature. Alan remained motionless for a few seconds, his face now pale despite the rain that whipped him. It was over. Lucy Morgan was no longer an obstacle. With trembling hands, he tucked the documents into the inside pocket of his jacket, made sure no evidence had been left behind, and returned to his car, leaving only tracks in the mud that would soon be erased by the storm. What he didn't see, however, was what happened below the cliff. Lucy's fall wasn't complete. About 60 feet below the lookout, a rocky outcrop covered with dense vegetation had partially cushioned the impact. And there, among bushes and exposed roots, an unconscious young woman and an improbable black goat waited, while the rain continued to fall mercilessly on Stone Ridge. The smell of herbs and honey filled the simple room when Lucy finally opened her eyes. The rustic wooden ceiling spun above her, and for a moment she couldn't remember where she was or how she'd gotten there. She tried to move, but a sharp pain ran through her body. "Easy, my child. You were very lucky," said a soft, cadenced, female voice. Lucy turned her head with difficulty and saw Mrs. Zelda, a white-haired lady with sun-marked skin, an old friend of her father. She was lying in a bed in a simple but welcoming house. What? How? She tried to ask, her throat dry. It was Thorn who brought you, answered Mr. Jonas, Zelda's husband, entering the room with a basin of water. I've never seen anything like it in all my 70 years. That goat came down the ridge with you, somehow keeping you safe until our gate. The memories came back like a whirlwind. The confrontation with Alan, the documents, the push, the fall, and then something furry and strong at her side, guiding her down the slope despite her intermittent unconsciousness. How long have I been here? 3 days, my child, replied Zelda, placing a damp cloth on her forehead. And to the outside? World, you no longer exist. Lucy felt a chill. What do you mean? Mr. Jonas sat on the edge of the bed, his wrinkled face contorted in a grave expression. Alan announced your departure, said that you, consumed by sadness after losing your father and pressured by business, decided to end your suffering at the ridge cliff. Tears of indignation welled up in Lucy's eyes. He planned everything? He tried to kill me, and now he's using this to take definitive control of everything. The symbolic funeral will be tomorrow, continued Mrs. Zelda. They didn't find your body, of course. He said you fell in an inaccessible area. I need to go back. I need to show everyone I'm alive. Mr. Jonas firmly held her hand. No, my child. That would be your final sentence. Alan has many powerful people on his side. If you appear now without evidence against him, you won't last a day. The reality of the situation began to weigh on Lucy. She was alone, presumed dead, without her wheelchair, without documents, without known allies beyond this elderly couple. My secretary, Vivian. She knows some things. I left an envelope. With her. We don't know about her, replied Zelda with concern. But something strange happened. Yesterday, a man who introduced himself as an employee of Alan's company came asking if we'd seen a young woman, saying she was an accountant who fled with important documents. Vivian, exclaimed Lucy. She must have discovered something more, something Alan fears. I need to find her. First, you need to recover, insisted Mrs. Zelda, and we need to be very careful. Alan's eyes are everywhere now. That night, while the elderly couple slept, Lucy remained awake, trying to piece together the puzzle in her mind. Her father had left clues she knew, and Vivian, always perceptive, must have found something important enough to become a target. A noise at the window startled her. With difficulty, she dragged herself there and pushed aside the curtain. The black goat, Thorn, was there, its bright eyes staring at her as if wanting to communicate something. You really did save me, didn't you? She whispered to the animal. At dawn, an unexpected visitor arrived at the Jonases' house. Aunt Rose, the Morgan family housekeeper, appeared discreetly, her face marked by contained tears. My God in heaven, she exclaimed upon seeing Lucy alive, embracing her tightly. I knew it. I knew that story didn't make sense. You would never do that, my girl. How did you find me, Aunt Rose? The lady removed an old family Bible from her bag. I found this among your things. It had a hidden note, with Mr. Jonas's name and a message. In case of emergency, seek him out. Lucy smiled, remembering that precaution she had taken months before when she began to suspect Alan. I brought news and something more, continued Aunt Rose. Sheriff Silver is suspicious of the whole story. He found strange marks at the site of the incident, animal tracks going down the slope in a way no normal animal would. Thorn, murmured Lucy. Whatever it was, he doesn't believe the official version. And there's more. Vivian disappeared, but before that, she came to me, asked me to keep this. Aunt Rose handed a small flash drive to Lucy. She said it was life insurance, that she had discovered the complete plan. Something about old mines and a dam project that wasn't what it seemed. For the first time in days, Lucy felt a spark of hope. She wasn't completely alone after all. She had allies, Aunt Rose, the Jonas couple, Sheriff Silver, who was beginning to question, Vivian, who had left clues, and the most unlikely of all, a black goat named Thorn, who seemed to defy any rational explanation with his constant protective presence. Mr. Jonas's old laptop emitted a constant buzz as Lucy, seated on the improvised bed, analyzed the contents of the flash drive delivered by Aunt Rose. With each file opened, the dimension of the conspiracy led by Alan revealed itself to be even greater. "My God," she murmured, while analyzing detailed maps of the entire stone. Ridge, red dots marked strategic locations on the Morgan properties and neighboring ranches. The project wasn't just about mining. It involved the construction of a gigantic dam, disguised as an ecological reserve that would control water access for the entire region. Aunt Rose and Mrs. Zelda observed in silence, while Mr. Jonas paced restlessly around the room. "That would explain why Alan has been buying all the smaller properties around," commented the old rancher. "Whoever controls the water controls everything in this countryside." An especially alarming file showed bank deposits to accounts of local politicians, environmental inspectors, and even a county judge. A network of corruption meticulously built to make the project viable. "Vivian was brilliant in gathering all this," said Lucy, admiring her friend's courage. "But where is she now?" As if answering the question, a final document appeared on the screen. A coded message with a sequence of numbers. Lucy immediately recognized the system that they had created together during their college years. "It's a map," she explained to the three people accompanying her. "She's indicating the old coal mines that existed on the property before my grandfather's arrival. They're tunnels, abandoned for decades, but it seems Vivian found something important there." "Those mines are near the boundary with our land," observed Mr. Jonas. "When we were young, we used to explore those tunnels. Some of them cross underneath several properties." A plan began to form in Lucy's mind. She needed to investigate the mines, but in her current condition, without her wheelchair and with her body still recovering from the fall, it seemed impossible. At that moment, a sharp knock on the door interrupted the conversation. Everyone froze, fear etched on their faces. Mr. Jonas signaled for them to remain silent while he cautiously approached the entrance. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice firm despite the fear. "Sheriff Silver, Mr. Jonas. I need to talk to you." The old man exchanged alarmed glances with the women. The sheriff was known for his incorruptibility, but at that moment, trusting any authority seemed risky. "Hide," whispered Aunt Rose to Lucy, helping her move to the back room. Mr. Jonas took a deep breath and opened the door. Sheriff Silver, a middle-aged man with a military posture and piercing gaze, entered alone. His eyes surveyed the environment, noticing the open laptop on the table. "Sorry for the unannounced visit, Mr. Jonas, but the matter is delicate," he said, removing his hat. "It's about young Lucy Morgan." "A sad thing what happened," replied the old man, trying to maintain his composure. "We knew her father well." The sheriff nodded gravely. "The thing is, I found some strange things at the accident site, and stranger. Still, I received an anonymous call saying the young woman wasn't dead, and that she would be hiding with friends of her father." A tense silence took over the room, broken only by the distant song of a bird in the yard. "What exactly do you want, Sheriff?" asked Mrs. Zelda, nervously clasping her hands. "I want the truth, ma'am," he replied, looking directly at her. "And I want you to know that I'm not in Alan Davis's pocket, unlike many people around here." From the back room, Lucy heard the conversation and made an impulsive decision. Dragging herself with difficulty, she pushed open the door and revealed her presence. "I'm here, Sheriff." The man stared at her for a few moments, his face softening with what seemed like genuine relief. "Miss Morgan, good to see you alive." In the following hours, Lucy shared with Silver everything she knew: Alan's frauds, the attempted murder, the documents, Vivian's disappearance, and the larger plan involving the dam and clandestine mining. "We need concrete evidence," said the sheriff after listening attentively. "What you have on the flash drive is a start, but Alan has judges in his pocket. We need something irrefutable." "The mines," replied Lucy. "I believe Vivian left something in the old mines, but I can't go there in this condition." The sheriff was silent for a moment, thoughtful. "I have a nephew who works with technical assistance. He could fix up a motorized wheelchair without raising suspicions. As for the mines, I know that region well. My father worked there when he was young. So, you'll help us? Asked Aunt Rose, hopeful. Silver nodded, determined. What's happening in this region goes beyond a simple business coup. If this dam project proceeds as planned, hundreds of families will lose their lands, and the environmental impact will be devastating. As they finalized the plan, a noise from the window attracted everyone's attention. Thorn, the black goat, was observing the scene with his mysterious eyes. Sheriff Silver stared at him, intrigued. So that's the animal that left the marks on the cliff. They say this goat appears at the crossroads of people's lives. My grandmother used to tell stories about him. He saved me, said Lucy, with conviction. And he's still here, as if he knows we still need him. Silver smiled, a tired but genuine smile. In this battle, we'll need all the help we can get, even if it comes from unexpected places. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We continue. A week passed since Sheriff Silver's visit. His nephew, Peter, a thin young man of few words, had managed to get a motorized wheelchair adapted for rough terrain. It had been the time necessary for Lucy to regain her strength and for the group to elaborate a detailed plan to explore the abandoned mines. Meanwhile, Alan proceeded with his plans. Local newspapers reported the sale of several Morgan family properties to a consortium called Green Ridge, supposedly dedicated to environmental preservation and ecological tourism. Only those closest to the conspiracy knew the true nature of the project. He's accelerating everything, observed Lucy, reading the newspaper that Aunt Rose had brought. He must be worried about Vivian's disappearance and the documents she might have hidden. The night chosen for the mine expedition was moonless, perfect for the necessary secrecy. Silver arrived driving an old four-wheel drive truck, accompanied by Peter. In the back seat, an unexpected figure, a middle-aged black man with grey at his temples and calloused hands. "This is Jack," introduced the sheriff. "He worked in the mines when he was young before they were closed. He knows every tunnel like the back of his hand." Jack greeted everyone with a respectful nod. "When I heard it was to help Anthony Morgan's daughter, I didn't think twice. Your father was a just man, always respected the workers." The group departed when the clock struck 11 at night. Mr. Jonas stayed behind, charged with creating an alibi in case someone showed up looking for them. Mrs. Zelda prepared a bag with food, flashlights, and first aid kits. Aunt Rose would go with them, insisting that her presence might be necessary. "Vivian has a special affection for you, Aunt Rose. If she's hiding there, she'll trust more easily if she sees me with you," argued Lucy. The truck followed secondary roads, avoiding the main routes where they could be seen. After half an hour of travel, they abandoned the road completely, following an almost invisible trail that wound between trees, twisted by the constant ridge wind. "It's here," said Jack, when they reached a small clearing. "The main mine entrance is 200 yards to the north, but that one has been blocked for years. We'll use the ventilation entrance, which is hidden behind those rocks." Indeed, camouflaged among rock formations and dense vegetation, there was an opening wide enough for a person to pass through. It would be a challenge for the wheelchair, but Lucy's determination was unshakable. "I'm going to need help here," she said, staring at the entrance seriously. Peter and Silver positioned themselves, one on each side of the motorized wheelchair. "Don't worry, miss. We'll get through," assured Peter. As they prepared, the dry sound of hooves hitting the rocks caught everyone's attention. Thorn emerged from the shadows, his eyes shining under the flashlights. "That animal is truly extraordinary," commented Silver. "It seems to be following us intentionally." "He is," replied Lucy with conviction, "and I'm grateful for it." One by one, they entered through the narrow opening. After a few yards of a natural corridor, the tunnel expanded into a wide gallery, with several branches leading in different directions. The air was fresh but charged with a peculiar odor of damp earth and minerals. "Where do we start?" asked Aunt Rose, her voice echoing slightly off the rocky walls. Lucy took from her pocket the paper, where she had noted the numerical sequence left by Vivian. "According to the code, we should follow the third tunnel on the right, then left, at the second fork, and continue to a hall with a central well." Jack nodded, recognizing the description. The Star Hall. We called it that because seen from above, the galleries that leave it form something like a five-pointed star. It's an important place where the engineers used to keep equipment and documents. The group advanced slowly through the tunnels, the flashlights creating dancing shadows on the rocky walls covered with moss and natural crystals. At each fork, Jack confirmed the path, occasionally pointing to old marks left by the miners. Thorne followed them at a respectful distance, his hooves making a rhythmic sound that strangely calmed everyone instead of causing apprehension. After almost an hour of careful exploration, they reached the Star Hall. It was a natural chamber expanded by the miners, with a domed ceiling that rose almost 15 feet high. In the center, as described, there was a circular well, now sealed with a metal grate corroded by time. "Now we need to find what Vivian left," said Lucy, analyzing the environment with her flashlight. "There must be some clue in the code she sent," suggested Silver. Lucy reread the message, trying to decipher any additional indication. "Where the light touches first when the sun rises," she murmured, repeating an enigmatic excerpt. Jack suddenly raised his flashlight. "The eastern air shaft," he exclaimed. "It's an opening in the ceiling of this hall, positioned in such a way that during sunrise, a ray of sunlight penetrates directly in here. It was considered a special place by the older workers." Everyone directed their flashlights to the ceiling, locating the small natural opening, now partially covered by vegetation. "And where exactly would that sunbeam touch first?" asked Peter. "That wall," Jack pointed to a section of the cave, lighter than the rest. "During the summer solstice, the ray forms a perfect line from the air shaft to that rocky protrusion." Aunt Rose was already heading to the indicated spot, her small stature allowing her to move with agility between the rock formations. Upon reaching the wall, she began to examine it carefully with her experienced fingers. "There's something here," she exclaimed after a few minutes, "a crevice that doesn't seem natural." Everyone approached, while Aunt Rose worked to widen the opening. With a dry snap, a small cavity was revealed, and inside it a sealed plastic tube, the type used to protect documents from moisture. Lucy held the tube with trembling hands, feeling the weight of hope and apprehension that object carried. Everyone formed a circle around her, the flashlights converging to illuminate the crucial moment. "Open it, child," encouraged Aunt Rose, her voice charged with emotion. Carefully, Lucy unscrewed the cap and removed the contents. A bundle of rolled-up documents and a small flash drive secured by an elastic band. Slowly, she unrolled the papers. "They're original blueprints," she explained, running her fingers over the technical drawings. "They show the true dam project. Look at this." The drawings revealed a structure much larger than officially disclosed, with underground channels that would divert water to private reservoirs, leaving entire communities without access to water resources. Even more alarming were the adulterated geological reports where critical risks had been deliberately omitted. "My God," murmured Silver, examining the documents. "If they build according to this project, the entire region below the ridge will be in danger. The structure wouldn't withstand the intense rains we have periodically." "There's more," said Lucy, unfolding another document. "A list of strategic properties and plans for the sabotage of ranches that refuse to sell." Aunt Rose brought her hand to her mouth, horrified. "It was like that with your father, wasn't it? It wasn't an accident." Lucy nodded, pain and anger mixing in her gaze. "And there's this too," she showed an internal memo with Alan's company letterhead. "Instructions to silence any evidence of the scheme. There are names, dates, values, everything documented. With this, we could bring down Alan and everyone involved," affirmed Silver, already visualizing the judicial process. A distant noise interrupted the conversation. Everyone froze, senses heightened by tension. "Voices," whispered Jack. "Someone's in the tunnels." The sound of footsteps and flashlights was approaching from one of the Star Hall entrances. Quickly, the group turned off their lights, leaving only one flashlight at the minimum possible luminosity. "Hide," ordered Silver in a low voice. "Peter, help Lucy." The young man silently pushed the wheelchair behind a rock formation. Aunt Rose and Jack found shelter behind old wooden structures. Silver remained partially visible, his hand discreetly on the weapon he carried. The footsteps got closer, and soon two figures entered the hall. The first, a tall, stocky man that the group recognized as Mark, Alan's trusted henchman. The second figure, to everyone's surprise, was Vivian. "Move it," ordered Mark, pushing the young woman ahead. "The doctor is tired of your stalling. Where are the documents?" Vivian, visibly exhausted and with a cut on her eyebrow, maintained a defiant posture. "I already told you I don't know what you're talking about. I came here to check some old ranch records, as Dr. Davis asked." "Liar!" Mark pushed her more forcefully. "We know you were snooping where you shouldn't and copying files." At that moment, a subtle sound of hooves alerted Lucy. Thorne had stealthily advanced through the darkness and was now just a few yards from the henchman, his eyes fixed on him like a predator. Taking advantage of the momentary distraction caused by the goat, Silver emerged from his hiding place. "Police, don't move," he ordered, pointing his weapon. Mark reacted with surprising speed, pulling Vivian against him and drawing a pistol that he pointed at the young woman's head. "Lower that. Gun, Sheriff, or the girl will regret it." A tense silence took over the hall. Silver maintained his position, calculating options, while Mark slowly backed toward the exit, dragging Vivian with him. Then the unexpected happened. With a movement too fast for human eyes to follow, Thorne charged at Mark's legs. The impact was accurate, unbalancing the man enough for Vivian to free herself. The next instant, everything turned to chaos. Silver advanced. Mark fired into the air. Pieces of rock fell from the ceiling. Jack appeared from behind, striking the henchman with a piece of wood, while Peter ran to protect Vivian. When the dust settled, Mark was immobilized, his hands tied with ropes that Jack carried. Vivian, trembling but unharmed, ran to embrace Lucy, who had emerged from her hiding place. "You're alive," she exclaimed, tears flowing freely. "I knew it. I felt that you had survived." The two friends embraced for a long time while the others organized the situation. "How did they know we would be here?" asked Lucy, finally. "They didn't," replied Vivian, wiping away her tears. "Alan captured me 3 days ago. He found the empty flash drive I left with Aunt Rose and suspected I had hidden the real documents here. He forced me to come show where they were." "And where have you been all this time?" "Hidden in different places. After what happened at the cliff, I realized I would be next. I managed to copy more compromising files and fled. I was gathering more evidence, contacting people who could testify against Alan, but he ended up finding me." Silver approached after ensuring that Mark was securely detained. "We need to leave here immediately. If he sent only one man, it means he didn't want to attract attention, but when they don't return, Alan will send others." "And where do we go?" asked Aunt Rose. "We can't simply show up at the sheriff's office. Half the police are on his payroll." "I have a plan," said Lucy, determination shining in her eyes. "But first we need a secure phone. It's time to contact an old friend of my father's." Dawn was already advancing when the group left the mines, following an alternative path suggested by Jack. The sky was beginning to lighten on the horizon, announcing they would have few hours until Mark's absence was noticed by Alan. "We need a safe place with communication," said Silver, carrying the bound henchman in the truck bed. "I know a place," replied Jack. "My cousin has a property 20 miles from here, isolated with satellite dish and internet. He's trustworthy." During the journey, Lucy explained her plan to the group. It wasn't enough to just deliver the evidence to the authorities. They needed to neutralize the protection network that Alan had so carefully built over the years. "The friend of my father I mentioned is Robert Mitchell," she revealed. "He's a federal prosecutor specializing in environmental crimes and corruption. He's based in Washington, but we kept secret contact since I began to suspect Alan." "Robert Mitchell," Silver seemed impressed. "He has a reputation for being relentless. He's brought down powerful politicians and businessmen who thought they were untouchable." "Exactly," smiled Lucy. "And most importantly, he can activate the FBI directly, bypassing the local channels that Alan controls." Sebastian's house, Jack's cousin, was a simple but spacious construction, surrounded by old mango trees and protected by a gentle hill that made it invisible from the main road. The man, a quiet gentleman with perceptive eyes, welcomed the group without asking many questions. It was enough to know they were helping Anthony Morgan's daughter. With Mark securely locked in a tool shed and watched by Peter, the group could finally organize their discoveries and elaborate a definitive strategy. Vivian revealed alarming details she had discovered before being captured. Alan has accelerated everything. The final signature for the dam project is scheduled for the day after tomorrow. He called a press conference to announce the largest environmental investment in the region's history. It's the perfect opportunity, reflected Lucy. All those involved will be gathered in one place in front of the press. Using Sebastian's satellite phone, Lucy made the call that could change everything. Robert Mitchell answered on the third ring, his deep voice conveying authority even through the device. "Lucy, my God, girl, everyone thinks you're dead." "It's a long story, Robert, but I have everything we need against Alan and his accomplices. Documents, adulterated reports, evidence of bribery and witnesses. We need to act fast." The conversation lasted almost an hour. By the end, a complete plan had been drawn up. Robert would mobilize an FBI team to arrive quickly and discreetly in the region. They would operate independently, without contact with local authorities to avoid leaks. "They arrive tomorrow night," announced Lucy to the group after hanging up. "Robert will come personally to coordinate the operation." "And what about Alan?" asked Aunt Rose. "He must be looking for Mark and Vivian right now." "That's why we need to be strategic," replied Lucy. "Vivian, can you remotely access the company's system from here?" The secretary nodded. "If there's a decent connection, yes, I know all the passwords." "Great, let's plant false information. Something that makes Alan believe Mark found the documents and is on his way to deliver them." Vivian smiled, understanding the strategy. That will keep him focused on waiting for Mark instead of initiating a broad search. The following hours were of intense work. While Vivian remotely accessed the corporate systems to leave false trails, Lucy and Silver meticulously organized all the collected evidence, creating backup copies and structuring the presentation for Robert and the FBI. Jack and Peter left discreetly to observe the movement on neighboring properties and the main road, ensuring they wouldn't be surprised. Aunt Rose and Sebastian prepared food for everyone, knowing they would need to maintain their strength for what was to come. At the end of the afternoon, an alarming discovery. Through the security cameras of the Morgan Ranch, which Vivian managed to access, they saw Alan meeting with armed men who weren't regular employees. "Mercenaries," identified Silver. "He's hiring extra security. He must be getting desperate. Or preparing a plan B in case something goes wrong at the signing," added Lucy, her gaze somber. As night fell, tension increased. Each external noise caused apprehension. Thorne, who had followed the group there, remained vigilant around the house like a mystical sentinel. Near midnight, when fatigue began to overcome some, the sound of a helicopter approaching broke the silence. Everyone was alarmed until the satellite phone rang. It was Robert, confirming his arrival with the team of federal agents. The group gathered in the yard, where a clearing allowed the aircraft to land. Headlights cut through the darkness, and in minutes, Robert Mitchell, accompanied by 8 tactically dressed agents, disembarked. The prosecutor, a tall man with graying hair and military posture, walked directly to Lucy and embraced her tightly. "You're as determined as your father, girl. He would be proud." Inside the house, protected from external eyes, the group conducted a strategy meeting that extended through the night. Each document was analyzed, each testimony officially recorded. Mark's testimony, now cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence, was recorded on video. By dawn, the plan was complete. Robert smiled with satisfaction as he reviewed the final details. Tomorrow, at the press conference, Alan Davis will have a surprise. And you, Lucy, will have your justice. The grand ballroom of the Great Ridge Hotel was impeccably decorated for the occasion. Banners displayed the Green Ridge Project logo, with computer-generated images of the future ecological reserve that promised to transform the region. Journalists from local outlets and some correspondents from national networks prepared their equipment, while businessmen, politicians, and authorities chatted animatedly, champagne glasses in hand. At the center of it all, Alan Davis circulated with the confidence of someone who had reached the pinnacle. Wearing an impeccable suit and displaying a calculated smile, he accumulated congratulations for the innovative vision that would bring sustainable progress to the Montana countryside. In 15 minutes, we'll begin the official presentation and the signing of the agreement, his assistant announced to those present. Behind the scenes, Alan checked his watch for the third time in a few minutes. The absence of news from Mark bothered him, but not enough to shake his confidence. Even if the secretary had hidden compromising documents, the operation was too advanced to be interrupted. With the contract signed today, nothing could stop him. Outside the hotel, discreet vehicles positioned themselves strategically. Robert Mitchell, accompanied by 2 federal agents in civilian clothes, entered the lobby like another guest. Other agents infiltrated as security, sound technicians, and even waiters. Through disguised communicators, they confirmed positions and awaited the signal. In a van parked 2 blocks away, Lucy observed everything through cameras installed by the agents. At her side, Vivian and Aunt Rose waited anxiously. Sheriff Silver, now officially integrated into the federal operation, checked his weapon one last time. "We're ready," said Robert over the communicator, "awaiting your signal, Lucy." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Months of investigation, pain and struggle culminated in that instant. "Let's end this," she replied, determined. The presentation began punctually. Alan took the stage to applause, positioning himself before a huge screen where images of the project would be displayed. Beside him, the governor, 2 senators, and various business partners composed the table of authorities. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is a historic day for our region," he began, his voice amplified by the speakers. "The Green Ridge Project represents the future we want to build, economic development with environmental responsibility." While he discoursed on sustainability and progress, FBI technicians discreetly took control of the audiovisual system. In the van, Lucy followed each word, each hypocritical gesture of Alan, gathering strength for what was to come. "And now, I have the pleasure of presenting to you the images of what will be the largest ecological complex in the Northwest," announced Alan, making a dramatic gesture toward the screen behind him. But instead of the carefully prepared promotional images, internal documents appeared. Adulterated geological reports, compromising emails, secret mining contracts. The audience fell silent. Alan froze, his face becoming a mask of panic. What kind of joke is this?" he stammered, while trying to signal to his technicians. That was when the doors to the ballroom opened. Robert Mitchell entered, flanked by federal agents now identified. "It's no joke, Dr. Davis," said the prosecutor, his voice reverberating through the silent hall. "These are evidences of environmental crimes, corruption, forgery, fraud, and attempted murder." Flashes fired incessantly, capturing the moment when the empire of lies began to crumble. Alan tried to maintain his composure. "This is absurd, a complete absurdity, and an illegal invasion of a private event." Robert advanced calmly down the central aisle. "Perhaps you'd like to explain this evidence, or perhaps you'd like to hear the testimony of Mark Stevens, your employee, who has already confessed to participating in the scheme." Confusion set in. Authorities present tried to discreetly distance themselves from the main table. Journalists frantically transmitted the unexpected events. It was at this moment that Lucy made her entrance. Silver pushed her wheelchair down the central aisle of the hall, with Vivian and Aunt Rose accompanying her. A murmur of astonishment ran through the room. It was like seeing a ghost. Alan turned completely pale. "You... impossible." "Surprising. How life holds twists, isn't it, Alan?" replied Lucy, her voice firm, as she advanced to the foot of the stage. "Just as it was a surprise for me to discover that the man my father considered a friend was behind his death." The agents approached. Alan, who now oscillated between rage and despair. "You can't believe her. This girl has been mentally disturbed since the accident that left her invalid," he shouted, trying to regain control of the situation. Robert made a gesture, and a new document appeared on the screen, the technical report proving the sabotage of the tractor that had killed Anthony Morgan. What accident would that be, Doctor? The same type of accident you tried to cause for Miss Morgan at the Stone Ridge Cliff. Cornered, Alan made a sudden movement, pushing one of the agents and drawing a small gun he kept hidden. Chaos installed in the hall, with people screaming and throwing themselves to the ground. He pointed the trembling weapon at Lucy. "You should have died on that cliff," he vociferated. The next instant seemed to occur in slow motion. The back doors of the hall burst open violently. A black goat, of impressive bearing, erupted down the central aisle, advancing with supernatural speed. Before any agent could react, Thorne hit Alan with a precise headbutt to the legs, bringing him down. The gun fired upward, hitting only the ceiling. In seconds, Alan was immobilized by federal agents. As he was handcuffed, he looked incredulously at the animal that remained, beside Lucy's wheelchair like an ancestral guardian. "This is impossible," he murmured, before being removed from the location. In the weeks that followed, the operation unfolded on multiple fronts. Politicians, businessmen, and public officials involved were arrested. The scheme of corruption and environmental crimes was completely exposed. The national press highlighted the case as one of the biggest environmental scandals of the decade. Lucy, now officially resurrected, reassumed control of the Morgan family properties. Her first decision was to create a foundation dedicated to the environmental preservation of Stone Ridge and the sustainable development of local communities. On a sunny afternoon, seated on the porch of the main house at Hope Ranch, she welcomed the friends who had become family during those difficult times: Aunt Rose, Vivian, Mr. Jonas, Mrs. Zelda, Jack, Peter, and Sheriff Silver. "I still can't believe we did it," commented Vivian, serving blackberry juice to everyone. "It was a miracle you survived that fall," said Mr. Jonas. Lucy smiled, her gaze wandering to the distant pasture where a black figure moved elegantly among the trees. "It wasn't just a miracle," she replied softly. "It was Thorne." "I've never seen anything like it in all my life," confessed Silver, following her gaze. "That animal seems to understand everything, seems to have purpose." "The old folks used to say that some animals carry the wisdom of the earth," explained Jack. "They appear when we need them, when we need to remember that we're not alone in the fight for justice." Lucy watched the sun beginning to set behind the mountains of Stone Ridge. The same mountains that had almost witnessed her end now symbolized her new beginning. Justice had prevailed, her father had been avenged, and the Morgan legacy was safe. "You know what my father always said?" she spoke, as everyone contemplated the orange horizon. "Truth may stumble, may fall, may get hurt along the way, but in the end, it always rises." In the distant pasture, under the golden light of dusk, Thorne raised his head as if he had heard her words. His mysterious eyes shone one last time before he disappeared among the shadows of the trees, his mission fulfilled, but his legend eternalized in the stories that would be told for generations in Stone Ridge.